Vast stretches of golden sand slowly turning green. Millions of trees planted on barren ground. Hundreds of square miles of once lifeless desert transformed into fertile land where farming and life itself can thrive again. This isn't science fiction. It's a real-life environmental revolution led by China, a country that has taken the challenge of turning the uninhabitable into the livable to a whole new level. With the collective effort of local communities, experts, and national authorities, China is reversing decades of damage done to its arid landscapes. And although desertification remains a significant threat, China's large-scale greening projects have shown that even the harshest terrains can be reclaimed. One of the most ambitious of these efforts is centered in the Muas Desert. Here, Chinese citizens planted thousands of saplings directly into the sand, often with little or no water. The idea sounded impossible. So what happened next? Let's find out. Northern China, specifically the Ordos Plateau in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, was once a lush area filled with rivers, lakes, and dense vegetation. It was home to thriving ecosystems and vibrant biodiversity. But over time, human activity took a heavy toll. Deforestation, overgrazing by livestock, and unsustainable farming practices slowly chipped away at the land's fertility. What remained was a vast, expanding desert. By the mid-20th century, the Muas Desert had swallowed up over 16,000 square miles of land. Fertile soil was replaced by shifting dunes and rocky plains. Once productive farmlands turned to dust. The desert became not just a symbol of environmental degradation, but a daily struggle for survival. Take the city of Ulan, for example, located right on the desert's edge. Over the decades, sandstorms repeatedly buried homes, farmland, and roads. The winds were so powerful and frequent that Ulan had to be relocated not once, but 3 times. Harsh winters added another layer of difficulty, with freezing temperatures transforming the desert into a deadly, icy wasteland. Locals would often wake up to find thick layers of sand piled against their doors. Digging out was a daily routine. Abandoned homes, left unprotected, were quickly consumed by the dunes, their roofs and walls slowly disappearing beneath the sand. And all the while, the desert kept growing. Records from Ulan show that in the 100 years leading up to 1949, about 540 square miles of fertile land were overtaken by sand. 6 county-level towns and over 400 villages and settlements were either damaged or lost entirely. By that time, forest and grassland coverage in the region had plummeted to just 1.8%. People considered leaving. But for most, there was nowhere to go. The 1950s and 60s were a time of extreme hardship for China. Following the rise of the People's Republic, the nation underwent a radical transformation, socially, economically, and environmentally. During the Great Leap Forward, traditional farming systems were upended in favor of large-scale collective agriculture, but the methods used were often untested and inefficient. One of the more infamous examples was the Four Pests Campaign, a well-intentioned but ultimately disastrous attempt to eliminate rats, flies, mosquitoes, and sparrows. With sparrows nearly wiped out, locust populations exploded, decimating crops and triggering one of the worst famines in human history. By 1959, over 600 million people were living in poverty. That year's harvest was 15% lower than in 1958, and by 1960, agricultural output had dropped to just 70% of what it had been 2 years prior. In purely numeric terms, China's agricultural production fell from 200 million tons in 1958 to only 143.5 million tons by 1960. This crisis only worsened the situation in desert regions like Muas. Starvation forced people to make hard choices: stay and fight the land, or perish. So they fought, but not with weapons, with trees. In the 1950s and 60s, a grassroots movement began to take shape. Locals, determined to reclaim their land, started planting trees by hand. Millions of them. Some even sold their livestock to buy saplings, understanding that the animals wouldn't survive without vegetation anyway. One farmer famously sold 84 sheep to buy enough saplings to create a 3.7-mile-long green belt along the southern edge of the Muas Desert. He wasn't alone. Entire families dedicated decades of their lives to planting and nurturing trees. In some cases, 3 generations worked on the same plot of land, slowly turning sand into soil. As the trees took root, they began to change the landscape. Their roots helped stabilize the sand, brought water closer to the surface, and created shade, conditions that encouraged smaller plants and grasses to grow. With every new tree, the next batch had a better chance of survival. The Chinese government supported these efforts. Scientists were brought in to study desertification and recommend solutions. Water-retaining grasses and drought-resistant trees were introduced, and over time, the once unstoppable dunes began to slow. But one major problem remained: moisture, or rather, the lack of it. Most deserts, including MUAS, suffer from extremely low rainfall and high evaporation rates. As a result, many planted saplings withered and died, despite the best efforts of locals. That changed in 2004, when a desertification expert proposed a groundbreaking solution. His team introduced a soil hydrodynamic treatment method, essentially preparing the soil in a way that retains moisture and reduces evaporation. The process helps balance the needs of young plants with the water-holding potential of the soil. The result? Survival rates soared. Suddenly, it became possible to plant trees in dry desert soil, without irrigation, and still have them thrive. So what has all this hard work led to? The results are nothing short of miraculous. One powerful photo comparison tells the story best. In 1998, a young boy and his grandfather planted a poplar tree in the MUAS desert. By 2020, both the tree and the boy, now a man, had grown tall. Behind them, what was once a desolate landscape had become a green oasis. Since the beginning of the campaign, over 40 million trees have been planted in the MUAS desert. Species like Glanz larch, a hardy evergreen introduced decades ago, are now thriving thanks to these new techniques. Today, Glanz larch covers more than 330 square miles of the desert. And larch is just the beginning. In nearby Yanwan, on the edge of the MUAS desert, the AI Lavender Ecological Base has become a colorful paradise. Covering over 4,900 acres, the area now blooms with more than 3,000 acres of lavender, plus hundreds of acres of other flowers like verbena and chrysanthemums. Ulan, once a symbol of desertification, now stands as a model of recovery. Forest coverage in the city rose from less than 2% in the 1950s to 33% by 2020. Every year, locals continue to plant thousands more saplings. In 2020 alone, their target was to reforest nearly 1,000 acres of desert. The government and private companies have also joined the fight. In the first quarter of 2020, 41 entities, both public and private, planted trees on more than 82,000 acres of land near Ulan. But what about the bigger picture? Well, the results are even more astonishing. In the 20th century, the MUAS desert stretched across 16,300 square miles. Today, over 93% of that land has been reclaimed, now covered with greenery, thriving ecosystems, and agricultural potential. Once a barren stretch of wasteland, the MUAS desert is rapidly becoming a symbol of resilience, restoration, and hope. While challenges still remain, especially with ongoing climate change, the progress made so far proves that with determination, science, and community effort, even the harshest environments can be brought back to life. So, can deserts be stopped? In China's case, the answer is already growing. China has been relentlessly battling desertification for years, and its efforts are often hailed as groundbreaking. From 2016 to 2020 alone, China managed to transform around 21.7 million acres of desertified land into thriving green areas, averaging 4.3 million acres per year. By 2022, they planted another 9.3 million acres, and in 2023, that number reached over 9.8 million acres. These accomplishments sound impressive, but desertification is a massive challenge, and planting trees alone may not be enough to halt the spread of deserts. While the greening program is ambitious, experts warn that if desertification continues, China might have to plant trees for centuries to come. Despite this, the Chinese have found a creative solution. According to researchers at Beijing Forestry University, up to 85% of plants planted in desertified areas die, largely because of shifting sands. Sand particles are constantly moved by the wind, and without something to hold them in place, they leave plant roots exposed, making it nearly impossible for trees to thrive. Desert areas, like the Taklamakan Desert, where 80% of the land is shifting dunes moving at a rate of around 65 feet per year, present a particularly hostile environment. The lack of wind protection and the scarcity of nutrients in the sand makes it incredibly difficult for plants to survive. Still, China has not given up. Every year on March 12th, Tree Planting Day, millions of people across the country plant trees, and citizens between 11 and 60 years old are required to plant 3 to 5 trees annually. However, planting trees in such conditions requires specialized knowledge. For example, while planting in sandy soil might work in some places, it's crucial to know where, how, and what to plant to ensure the plant's survival. This is where a clever, albeit controversial, method comes into play: straw. Straw, in this case, refers to the dried out parts of wheat, rice, oats, and other crops. After harvesting the grain, the leftover straw is often discarded or used for animal feed. With China's vast rice production, generating over 200 million tons of straw annually, the country has found a way to repurpose this resource to combat desertification. The straw is spread across sand dunes in large grids, creating a checkerboard pattern that helps stabilize the sand and provide nutrients for the plants. This method is labor-intensive and expensive, requiring significant resources to transport and set up the straw grids. Trenches are dug, and the straw is carefully placed, but despite the challenges, the results have been impressive. Over time, the straw decomposes and becomes natural fertilizer for the plants, enriching the barren soil. In just 3 years, the straw cells break down, leaving behind a fertile patch of land where plants, like shrubs and desert-resistant trees, can thrive. The benefits of straw are not only limited to providing nutrients for plants. The straw grids also act as barriers, reducing the movement of sand by up to 99.5%. This drastic reduction in sand flow stabilizes the environment, allowing plant roots to remain anchored. The straw also offers wind protection, which is essential in the harsh desert conditions, where winds can be destructive. This combination of factors significantly improves the survival rate of plants in areas where traditional planting methods would fail. To make this process more efficient, the Chinese developed a mechanized solution. Instead of manually placing small straw piles, they created long straw ropes, which can be quickly laid down over large areas. These ropes, produced in factories, are more efficient, lasting up to 6 years, twice as long as traditional straw, and can be reused. The process is now 60% more efficient than the previous manual methods, saving time and labor while maintaining effectiveness. But even with these innovations, China went a step further. They designed a vehicle that can automatically lay the straw ropes, dig trenches, and plant seeds, all with minimal human intervention. This fully mechanized process allows for a much faster and more efficient system of combating desertification, reducing the need for manual labor and enhancing the overall speed of implementation. Despite these advancements, sometimes the terrain makes it difficult to use the automated machines. In such cases, workers dig trenches by hand and then use machines to cover the straw with sand. Though not as efficient as the fully automated system, this method still allows for a significant reduction in labor and time compared to the traditional manual methods. One might question the real-world effectiveness of these straw grids. The proof is in the results, especially when we look back at the construction of the BTU Lanzhou Railway in 1958. Stretching 615 miles, 87 of which passed through the Tengger Desert, the railway was initially thought to be impossible to build. Experts predicted that the railway would be buried under sand within 30 years. However, the Chinese engineers successfully stabilized the sand using straw mats and, later, straw cells. The straw cells not only helped stabilize the sand, but they also supported the growth of desert-resistant plants, turning the desert areas around the railway into green spaces. This solution became a model for the rest of the country, and in 1988, it was awarded a special prize for national science and technology progress. Today, the railway remains operational, and the sand protection system continues to protect it from desert encroachment. The success of the straw system did not go unnoticed, and soon other countries, battling desertification, adopted similar methods. The idea of using straw to stabilize sand dunes spread internationally, and many areas suffering from desertification began to see improvements in their own ecosystems. Fast forward to 2022, and the Chinese have once again shown their commitment to fighting desertification. The country opened its first high-speed highway through the Tengger Desert, a project that involved more than just laying down asphalt. To protect the highway from the desert's harsh conditions, a multi-layered system was put in place, including gravel belts and, of course, straw cells. This innovative solution saved millions of gallons of water and building materials and made the highway eco-friendly, demonstrating the versatility of straw in combating desertification. The success of these methods is not limited to just railways and highways. China continues to use straw and other innovative techniques to protect roads and infrastructure passing through deserts. For example, the Taklamakan Desert, known as the Sea of Death, is home to a highway that spans 349 miles. To protect this vital transportation route, China employs straw cells and plantings, ensuring that the desert does not swallow the road. China's efforts to combat desertification have evolved significantly over the years, showcasing the country's remarkable ingenuity and unwavering commitment to preserving its land. What started with basic tree planting has now grown into a sophisticated and multifaceted approach. The introduction of straw grids, which act as barriers to prevent sand movement, has provided a novel solution to protect newly planted saplings in shifting dunes. These straw grids, combined with mechanized machines for laying the straw and digging trenches, have drastically increased the efficiency of the planting process. This system allows China to cover large areas quickly, while ensuring the plants have a better chance of survival in harsh desert conditions. Beyond this, China has also developed advanced methods, such as creating straw ropes that are laid down mechanically, reducing labor costs and improving the durability of the sand barriers. The incorporation of plantings into these grids adds another layer of protection, as desert-resistant shrubs and trees help to stabilize the soil over time. This evolving strategy is not only about mitigating desertification, but also about creating a self-sustaining ecosystem where the desert becomes a thriving environment for plant and animal life. Although the battle against desertification is far from won, China's innovative solutions are proving highly effective in transforming barren deserts into green, thriving landscapes. With continued investment and adaptation of these methods, China is well on its way to reducing the spread of desertification, ensuring a healthier and more sustainable environment for future generations.